sometimes useful. You see lots of panels. This is the active profile. In here we have defaults and normals. You can see us fiddling about with various configurations. Well, I think that's it from the virtual machine side of things. Set them up to dynamic operations and the live partition mobility are all the big hitters for what you want to do with your virtual machines. Right, that's it for this part 3. Next up we'll be looking at creating a virtual scene from scratch. If you like this video, please click the like button below. Thank you. Hello, I'm Nigel Griffiths. I work at IBM Power Systems and Technology Support in Europe. This is part 2 of a series on the hardware management console using the classical GUI. This one is about controlling your servers. Hi, this time we'll be looking at the machines in a computer room and servers. And we have a list of them here. I'll click on the server panel here. And you see a lot of these are powered off. We actually had testing of an uninterruptible power supply in a computer room over the weekend, and they wanted us to switch them off in case it actually failed, and it did. But so let's practice now a little bit. We're going to power these boxes on. These are my 5 Power 6 machines at the top. They're tiny little machines, 4 CPUs and 16 gigabytes of RAM. I think my laptop here has got more than that. But they're nice because they're all exactly the same. They're a little cluster using a Power PC. But anyway, I've clicked on this item in here, and you see these little buttons popped up in here. We can click on here to Operations Power On. We get a pop-up in here. We can hardware discovery is just used if you've got a problem with the boot sequence and things. Can't say use that normally, so we'll just do an OK. We'll see here over a reference code. In the good old days, back into the Power 3, we used to have LEDs on the front of the machine, and they go through their codes as they boot it up to tell you what's going on. You can see it's just changed. That's no good in a lights-off HMC controlled computer room, so they're actually put on the screen here. If I deselect that one and select another one, we could do it a different way. We've still got the button here. I could go to Tasks and Operations and Power On. That's another way of doing it. You have to decide which works best for you. And so that one should be up and away in a second. Oh, just noticed we've got a warning here. Something is amiss. We'll look at part 3 or part 4, looking at these service events and how to dive in and have a look. Let's start the next one up here. This is orange. Down here we've got a little arrow. If I click on here, we get another little panel in here. And if I click on Operations, we'll see Power On down here as well. You'll have to decide what is most useful for you. I don't like this one because it's taking up a lot of real estate. I'll have to pop that one out of the way. Task with the little button is quite good. If this has been slid over so you can't see the button on the end, then Task is always available up in here. Okay, so these are initializing. You can see here available processing units. Well, these machines are off, so none of the CPUs and memory is available. Down in here, machines that are at operating status, we've got some very odd numbers. So these are the unused processing units, CPUs, and memory gigabytes. And then you're thinking, well, hang on, how big is this box, and how do we control these sorts of things? Well, we'll find out later on. Some of these units in here, these are for the logical partitions, and these ones are for the servers. If I open up, for example, Ruby has got some LPARs running. You can see here it has the CPUs and memory used by the LPAR. Up in here, this is the free resources on the machine. What's actually on the machine, sort of configuration size? Well, we can control all that with this little button here. Here are all the list of, I'll scroll down slightly, things that we can see on our screen. And look, configured processing units. This is actually inside the machine. We've got a serial number and model type. These usually come out as the server names initially. If you don't want to rename them, they'll still be there. And a whole load of more other things down in here that we may actually want to have a look at. We also, here's the available that we have on our screen at the moment here. And if we select one of these, we can move it up the list. So we'll have configured and then available, not too far. Configured memory. In there. And then scroll down from my OK button. Now we've got the extra columns in here. The ones that are running, so you can see my Ruby has 32 CPUs and 512 gigabytes of memory. The bulk of that memory is actually still unused. My LPARs are quite small on this machine, and I haven't started some of the bigger ones. We'll see this one's gone to operating state, and we can see also that these things aren't quite fitting on the screen very well. We can click this button here. We don't usually use that, well I don't, so pop that out of the way as well, gives us more real estate. And we can move these things around if we can't see what's going on. Although sometimes it has a mind of its own. Okay, back up to the top so we can see the details on here. We can use a lot of buttons up in here, open them all up or close them all down, those sorts of things, and we can filter so we can actually just look at, for example, what's P8 machines, and take a whole lot of things out of the way. It can get a bit confusing because you think, hang on, what happened to all my other machines? But we can delete that and get them back. Okay, particularly useful though if you're looking for a particular logical partition, you know its name, and there's lists of hundreds of them in here, you can actually just say go find it. Right then, if we go down to Ruby machine again, we'll scroll up slightly. Here we find I've got 2 VIO servers that are running and 2 not running. This is for beta testing new versions of these 2 in here. These are LPARs that are actually running, and some of these have got problems in them. Have a look at this. It says waiting for virtual terminal to be opened on the HMC. It hasn't failed. I need to go off and do something. I thought it was trying to do a network boot and not finding the server to talk to. On this one here, it's running. I got stuck doing something other. The firmware did not find any operating system image. Oh dear, my disk is missing. Well, I got a bit crash button in here, so that happens sometimes on our computers. Over here we can find the operating system version in here. If we're running Linux, sometimes that doesn't say much over here. Here's the serial number and the model type numbers. This is what the hardware guys keep talking about. They won't tell you that your Ruby machine's got a problem. They'll say your 21D494V reported an issue, and you'll have to go and find it. In here you can see the VIO server 224. That's the latest version. Probably got service pack as well on the back of this. Okay, now I've pressed this down into 1200 pixels, so this is why we're struggling to see all of the screen all the time at the moment. And you may want to close down some of these columns in here. These are held per user, so I can have a different set to my colleague Gareth, have it the way that I like it when I come in. Go back up to the top in here. Bronze, that's operating, so let's have a look. The LPAR's running. Okay, it's automatically started the VIO server. I can set that a request for my virtual machines, and if I look at my gold in here, it didn't do that. The machine is running. Nope, the VIO server is running. I was looking down one line. Here we go. The orange machine is here. It says it's gone to standby mode. It started the machine but not started on any of the LPARs. I like starting my VIO servers by default, but that one's not set. So it's just waiting for me to stand by saying, well, the box is up, but you have to do something if you want to get a workload running. Typically you can start your VIO servers and your virtual machines at the same time. The virtual machines, if they haven't got their own adapters, they're working from the VIO server, they'll stop during the boot process until the VIO server comes up, and then they continue on using their virtual disk to boot from. Okay, let's shrink those turnbuckles now. Select a machine. Let's try a nice big machine here, my Power 8. And in the tasks, look at the things we can see about this machine. Properties. Okay, so we have general in here. This is details about the machine. There's not a service partition, so we won't be upgrading the system firmware via the operating system in here. We have an option here that if you shut down all your old files, do you want to actually then go ahead and shut down the machine? That can be useful sometimes. It can be a pain in the neck sometimes. Here's the processor details. So we've got 32 CPUs installed, 19.5 are assigned, we've got 12.5 left over, and it's using multiple shared processor pools. Supported. We'll be using them at the moment. So we look at the memory, 512 gig, and a little bit in reserve. That's for the hypervisor, 13 gig, and the assigned to partitions, 128 gig. On the I/O side, a bit more details in here, and notice the slide panel down here, there's a few more hidden. These are all the adapters in the back of the machine. These code numbers tell you which part of the machine it's in, and the C number is a genuine PCI slot on the back of the machine, and a T number is like an internal resource. So for example, we have some USB memory key slots, as I tend to call them. They're actually stuck on the back of the machine, part of the machine. The other ones are, these are genuine slots in the back of the machine. An R number is a resource inside the machine that you may or may not have, so you can buy the machine with or without RAID controllers. Plus in here some internal information and things, and we don't use I/O pools. I think that's an IBM I feature, but you can see which particular virtual machine is using which resource in here. So typically these are nearly always owned by the one or the other of the virtual I/O service, because we're mostly shared. I have an example here though of a VM96. This has got a RAID controller. That's because it's using SSDs that are connected to the RAID controller to do a bit of ARX7.2 SSD caching on those fiber channel disks. In here as well, we've got some that are owned by the hypervisor. These are using SRIOV, so the hypervisor owns them, and then can allocate virtual resources on that adapter. As you see some empty slots in here that we can put extra adapters in. I'm not sure if there's anything else in here that's particularly exciting. There's a mixture of fiber channel and gigabit Ethernet adapters in my box. Here it's telling us how many logical partition migrations you can do at any one time, and we've got none running at the moment. We've got some power on parameters. I forget what these actually are. I don't tend to fiddle in here, so we'll move on. Capabilities is much more interesting. These are some of the features. Some of these you have to purchase, and some of them will be true at particular versions of the hardware. So partition mobility capable, that's LPU for example. Further down here I just created a movie on simplified remote restart capable. So this machine is a Power 8 machine, and it has this feature enabled, which means it has Power VM Enterprise Edition. In advanced, we have things in here which tends to be being used by the things like the high performance guys. Huge memory, maybe a bit of Oracle databases use that. Mirroring in the top end boxes, so that we can survive large boards with our memory, and the trusted platform tends to be used with the Power AC people for security. Okay, so they're the features that we have for a particular server. We go back to our tasks. We have operations. Well, we power it on, we can do a power off. We got manage the LED status, and we could switch off, for example, this warning LED here. Best to go and check what the problem actually is before you just go switching them off to make the machine look tidy. That's about all we have down in here. We have some performance data that we can capture via the HMC. Again, I guess that would be a different movie, lots of information in there. Here's how we create a partition. We'll come back to that in part 3. And virtual resources for sharing things out from the VO servers. When we first bring up a machine and connect it to the private HMC LAN, and then power it in by putting it onto the power supply, then we'll find a machine that comes up here as unknown, and we have to click on it and say log in, and we need to use the special username and password to log into the service processor. Then it appears here, and we can control it as normal. This is what the connections are about. We can reset those or disconnect it if we're moving a machine to a different HMC. We have some things that we can set at the machine level, like the SRIOV mappings, for example. Updates are about updating the service. I tend to use that down in here. Pick up the same task in here. Come to that later on. Serviceability, service management events. We'll look at that again later, maybe part 4. Capacity upgrade on demand. If you bought a machine that, particularly our enterprise machines, and you've got hardware in the machine but you haven't paid to activate it, then you go into this part in here and put in this capacity on demand. The hypervisor will then activate the CPUs or memory, and then you can immediately assign that to logical partitions later on. But finally, the HMC now can collect quite a lot of performance data, and you can go look at some graphs and what's busy on the particular machine. Yes, that would be another movie here, and that one is quite a big topic, but not sort of part of the basic operation. Well, that's it for part 2. Look out for part 3, controlling your virtual machines. If you've liked this video, please click on the like button below. Hello, I'm Nigel Griffiths. I work in IBM Power Systems and Final Technology Support in Europe. In this series of movies, we're looking at the Hardware Management Console 8, a bit of a crash course as quick as I can go through the basics. This is part 1. We'll have a quick look at what is the HMC and what can it do. Then we'll have a quick look at the user interface. In later parts, we'll look at the details of machines, details of virtual machines, and details about the monitoring and support. So when you get a HMC, what do you actually get? Well, you get some software and hardware. On the hardware side, you'll get a 1U Intel server. You'll install the DVD into the front, and using your local screen and keyboard, then you'll do the install, and you'll put it onto the network. After that, you can actually remotely access all the HMC functions either via a browser, graphical user interface, or you can SSH there to get the command line interface. On the software side, the current version is 840, December 2015, and that controls our Power 6, 7 and 8 servers. If you have older Power 5 machines, for example, you have to be using HMC version 7 something. We can access this HMC local screen and keyboard. The hardware maintenance guys, if they're into your computer room and they want to replace parts, they go through a procedure on the HMC, so that should be fairly near the computer. And but everybody else will be back at their desk or at home or wherever remotely, accessing all the same things. So we've got a command line interface. Again, it's running as an appliance. You're not allowed to log in as root and make ghastly changes